Brock Lesnar just ended Jacob Fatu's career in the most brutal, most sickening display of violence SmackDown has ever aired, and the image of Jacob's leg bending in a direction that no human leg should bend is going to haunt everyone who witnessed it for the rest of their lives. This wasn't a wrestling match. This was a targeted assassination of the Samoan werewolf's ability to ever walk normally again, let alone wrestle. The crack of bone breaking was audible even over the crowd noise. Jacob's screams of agony were so genuine that EMTs were openly crying while loading him onto the stretcher, and Brock Lesnar stood over the wreckage with zero remorse, making it clear this was exactly what he intended to do. Jacob Fatu is in emergency surgery right now, with doctors saying the damage to his left leg is so catastrophic that even with successful surgery, he may never wrestle again. His career, his livelihood, his identity as one of the most dominant forces in wrestling was destroyed in seconds by a man who decided that injuring Jacob wasn't enough. He needed to shatter him completely. Before we break down frame by frame how Brock systematically destroyed Jacob Fatu's leg and expose why this attack was premeditated rather than an in-ring accident, answer this. Should Brock Lesnar face criminal charges for what he just did? Or is this just part of the business? Comment yes for charges or a no for accepting this as wrestling, because I need to know where everyone stands. Let's establish how we got to this massacre, because the build-up makes what Brock did even more unforgivable. For the past month, Jacob Fatu has been on an absolute tear through SmackDown, destroying everyone put in front of him. The Samoan werewolf was being positioned as the next unstoppable monster, the heir apparent to Roman Reigns' dominance, the future of the Bloodline's legacy. Then 2 weeks ago, Jacob made the fatal mistake of calling out Brock Lesnar. He said Brock was scared to face real Samoan warriors, and that the beast is just an old man pretending he's still relevant. Standard heel talk designed to generate heat and set up a big match. But Brock took it personally. According to Backstage sources, Brock went to management and specifically requested that when he faced Jacob, there be no restrictions on what he could do. He wanted a match where he could teach this disrespectful kid a lesson he'll never forget. Management, thinking Brock just meant he wanted to work stiff and deliver a beating, approved the request. They had no idea what Brock was actually planning. Quick trivia. How many times has Brock Lesnar been WWE champion across all his runs? Drop your answer and let's see who knows their Lesnar history. Last night's SmackDown advertised Brock Lesnar versus Jacob Fatu as the main event, and the build throughout the show suggested this would be a war between two legitimate monsters. Video packages highlighted Jacob's undefeated streak and Brock's history of destroying everyone. The stakes felt massive. When Jacob's music hit, he came out with that Samoan werewolf energy, and you could feel the atmosphere looking legitimately fearless despite facing with Paul Heyman, the most dangerous man in WWE history. He got in the ring and immediately started talking trash, that smirk trying to get as he knows he's going before the match even started. Last night, Brock looked focused in a way that was honestly terrifying. No smile, no playing to the crowd, just cold calculation. The bell rang, and the first 3 minutes of the match were exactly what you'd expect. Two monsters throwing heavy strikes, power moves, neither man backing down. Jacob hit Brock with massive strikes that would have knocked out normal humans. Brock absorbed them and came back with suplexes that rattled Jacob's entire body. Commentary was selling this as an epic battle, and the crowd was absolutely electric. This was delivering on every bit of hype, two legitimate badasses beating the hell out of each other. Then, at the 4-minute mark, everything changed in an instant. Jacob went for a super kick, his leg extended in that vulnerable position mid-kick. Brock caught his leg, and instead of doing what wrestlers normally do, setting up for a suplex or takedown, Brock twisted Jacob's leg with such violent force that you could hear something snap. Comment your reaction. Did you hear the leg break on TV? Or was it just people in the arena? Because reports say it was audible everywhere. Jacob's scream was immediate. The referee immediately called for the bell, not a worked wrestling trying to stop the match, but the sound of a man in legitimate rushing excruciating pain. Everyone in that arena recognized clutching his leg, an actual injury and you could see even from the wide camera angle that something was not even close. Wrong. He grabbed Jacob's injured leg and dragged him to the corner, Jacob screaming and begging Brock to stop. The audio of Jacob pleading, "Please, please, stop," is on video and it's haunting. This was a man who knew his career was being destroyed and was powerless to prevent it. Brock wrapped Jacob's leg around the ring post, the injured leg positioned in the most vulnerable way possible. The crowd was screaming at Brock to stop, not cheering heel heat but genuine. Someone needs to intervene, panic. Then Brock grabbed a steel chair. The referee tried to stop him, and Brock shoved the ref so hard that the official went flying into the barricade. Security started coming down, but they weren't fast enough. Brock swung that chair with full force directly at Jacob's leg that was wrapped around the post. The crack of steel on bone echoed through the arena. Jacob's body went rigid from the pain, his scream reaching a pitch that made people in the crowd cover their ears. Once wasn't enough for Brock. On a scale of 1 to 10, again. Is this the most sickening attack you've ever seen in wrestling? Each strike delivered because I'm at an 11 force, and I've seen everything. Each one causing more catastrophic damage and multiple wrestlers already shattered Brock away. The damage was done. Jacob's leg was twisted at an unnatural angle, clearly broken in multiple places. Blood was visible where the chair had split skin. Jacob had passed out from the pain, his body's defense mechanism shutting him down rather than processing that level of agony. The arena went silent. Not the stunned silence after a big spot, but the horrified silence of people who just witnessed something they shouldn't have seen. Children in the crowd were crying. Adults looked sick to their stomachs. EMTs immediately got into the ring, and their reactions told the whole story. These are medical professionals who've seen countless wrestling injuries, and even they looked shaken by the severity of what they were dealing with. They carefully stabilized Jacob's leg, put him on a backboard because of concern about shock, and started wheeling him out. That's when Brock did something that proves this was premeditated rather than an in-ring accident gone too far. As Jacob was being loaded onto the stretcher, unconscious and broken, Brock grabbed the callousness of that statement. That's delivered while Jacob Fatu's career was literally ending in front of everyone. A real Samoan
shows
warrior.
that Brock felt zero
Now you'll
remorse.
spend the rest of your
This
life
wasn't
remembering
heat of
what
the
a real
moment or an
beast does to
accident
warriors
that
who
went wrong.
talk too much. This was calculated destruction. Trivia break. What was Jacob Fatu's finishing move called before this injury? Use past tense because he may never hit it again. The immediate backstage reaction was pandemonium. Wrestlers from every brand were crowded around monitors watching what had happened, many of them looking furious. Solo Sikoa, Jacob's bloodline brother, had to be physically restrained from going after Brock. He was screaming that he was going to kill Brock, that this was a declaration of war against the entire Samoan dynasty. Roman Reigns, despite being off television, was reportedly at the arena and witnessed everything. Sources say he immediately got on the phone with WWE management demanding that Brock be fired, arrested, or at minimum suspended indefinitely. Roman was livid, saying this crossed every line that exists between working stiff and legitimately trying to end someone's career. The Usos posted on social media within minutes. This isn't wrestling. This is assault. Brock Lesnar needs to be in jail, not in a WWE ring. Even wrestlers with no connection to the bloodline were speaking out. Seth Rollins tweeted, "I've been in the ring with Brock dozens of times. What he did tonight wasn't wrestling, it was attempted murder. Jacob Fatu deserves justice." Kevin Owens was even more direct. The callousness of that statement, if WWE doesn't delivered fire while Brock Jacob Lesnar Fatu's career was literally ending in front of what just happened. That shows that Brock felt zero Question remorse. for comments. This wasn't heat of the moment terminate Brock's contract over this? This was calculated overreaction. Trivia break. Your honest business What was Jacob Fatu's finishing move called before this injury? Use past tense because he may never hit it again. The immediate backstage reaction was pandemonium. Wrestlers from every brand were crowded around monitors watching what had happened, many of them looking furious. Solo Sikoa, Jacob's bloodline brother, had to be physically restrained from going after Brock. He was screaming that he was going to kill Brock, that this was a declaration of war against the entire Samoan dynasty. Roman Reigns, despite being off television, was reportedly at the arena and witnessed everything. Sources say he immediately got on the phone with WWE management demanding that Brock be fired, arrested, or at minimum suspended indefinitely. Roman was livid, saying this crossed every line that exists between working stiff and legitimately trying to end someone's career. The Usos posted on social media within minutes. This isn't wrestling. This is assault. Brock Lesnar needs to be in jail, not in a WWE ring. Even wrestlers with no connection to the bloodline were speaking out. Seth Rollins tweeted, "I've been in the ring with Brock dozens of times. What he did tonight wasn't wrestling, it was attempted murder. Jacob Fatu deserves justice." Kevin Owens was even more direct. "If WWE social media reaction has been immediately and divided in ways in what just happened. One faction is absolutely disgusted by what Brock did. Should WWE terminate Brock's contract over wrestling entirely? Or would that be an overreaction? They're saying this crosses every ethical line and that WWE should be ashamed for airing it." Another faction is arguing that Jacob Fatu knew what he was getting into when he called out Brock, that this is the risk you take in professional wrestling, and that people need to stop being so sensitive about what's ultimately a predetermined sport. The divide between these perspectives represents a fundamental disagreement about what wrestling should be. Is it entertainment with safety prioritized? Or is it a combat sport where injuries are accepted risks? The medical update that came through about an hour after the show is devastating. Jacob Fatu has a compound fracture of his left tibia and fibula, torn ligaments including ACL and MCL, severe muscle damage, and potential nerve damage that won't be fully assessed until after surgery. The orthopedic surgeon handling his case released a statement saying, "The injuries Mr. Fatu sustained are among the most severe I've encountered in my career treating professional athletes. Even with successful surgery and extensive rehabilitation, there's significant doubt about whether he'll regain full function of the leg, let alone the ability to perform at the level required for professional wrestling." Jacob's family released a statement through social media. A medical professional is saying Jacob Fatu might not walk Jacob properly has dreamed again, of wrestling his entire life. His career isn't everything to honor his family's potentially over and made the Fatu name synonymous during what should have been his prime years. To have that dream stolen by someone's deliberate malice is beyond comprehension. We're praying for his recovery and considering all legal options against those responsible. That phrase, legal options, is significant. This might not stay contained within WWE's corporate structure. Jacob's family might pursue criminal charges or civil lawsuits that expose exactly what happened and who approved what. Your theory: will Jacob Fatu's family actually sue Brock and WWE? Or will this get settled quietly behind closed doors? Drop your prediction. WWE's official statement came 3 hours after the incident, and it's pathetic in how corporate and empty it is. WWE takes the safety of our performers seriously. The incident involving Brock Lesnar and Jacob Fatu is under review by our medical and legal teams. We wish Jacob a full recovery and will provide updates as appropriate. Notice what's not in that statement. No condemnation of Brock's actions. No suspension announced. No acknowledgement that what happened was anything other than a normal incident. They're in full damage control mode, trying to avoid legal liability while not alienating Brock, who's still a massive draw. The locker room is furious at that weak response. Statement that somehow even worse have gone to management demanding stronger Brock action. Lesnar is the beast incarnate. There are reports of a potential when you step into the ring with him, WWE accepts the consequences of facing whether the most dangerous man remains to be seen. Paul Heyman, what happened to Jacob Fatu was unfortunate, but not unexpected given the nature of their confrontation. The audacity of calling this unfortunate but not unexpected, like it was a normal wrestling injury rather than a targeted destruction of someone's leg, is infuriating. Heyman is essentially arguing that Jacob should have known better than to challenge Brock, which is victim-blaming at its worst. The bigger question that's emerging: did WWE management know what Brock was planning? When Brock requested no restrictions for the match, did they understand he meant he wanted permission to legitimately injure Jacob? If management knew and approved, they're legally liable for Jacob's injuries and medical costs. If they didn't know, it means Brock went into business for himself and should face immediate termination for violating safety protocols. Either scenario is bad for WWE, which is why they're being so cautious in their statements and not rushing to conclusions publicly. Comment: do you think WWE management knew Brock was planning to injure Jacob? Or was Brock acting alone? This determines everything about culpability. The implications for SmackDown storylines are massive. Jacob Fatu was being positioned as the next top heel, the centerpiece of Bloodline 2.0. Option A. With him gone, acknowledge what happened. Those plans into a revenge storyline with the Bloodline hunting Brock. Loses his most powerful ally. Pretend it didn't happen and quietly write Jacob off as injured. WWE now has to figure out how to address this on television. Suspend Brock and use his absence as storyline punishment that gives them time to figure out the legal situation. My prediction: they go with option A because the heat is too intense to ignore, but they'll edit the footage heavily to remove the most graphic elements before airing it again. The footage itself is already being scrubbed from social media. WWE is issuing copyright strikes against anyone posting videos of the attack. They're trying to control the narrative by limiting access to the actual visuals of what happened. But this is 2025. Once something airs on live television, you can't completely erase it. Copies exist. Screenshots exist. The moment is permanently part of wrestling history, whether WWE wants it to be or not. Wrestling historians are already comparing this to other infamous injury angles. Pillman's ankle, Austin's neck, Edge's career-ending attack. But those were worked injuries designed to write people off television. This is real, which puts it in a completely different category of significance. Rate the historical importance. Where does this rank among the most significant injury moments in wrestling history? Top 5? Top 10? Some reports suggest Brock has already leaving the country to avoid potential legal issues. He's not responding to requests. Others say he's meeting with WWE representatives to coordinate a defense strategy. The uncertainty about his status and he's completely unrepentant is planning to show up at next week's SmackDown like nothing happened. Whatever Brock does next will determine how this situation resolves. If he shows remorse and accepts responsibility, maybe this gets handled internally. If he doubles down and refuses to apologize, this becomes a massive public relations disaster that forces WWE's hand. The Samoan wrestling community has united in support of Jacob Fatu. Wrestlers from multiple promotions, many with ties to the Anoa'i family dynasty, have posted messages of support and promises that justice will be served. Rikishi tweeted, "What happened to my nephew is unacceptable. The Anoa'i family has given everything to this business, and to see one of our own targeted like this breaks my heart." Brock Lesnar will answer for what he did. That's not just emotional support, that's a threat. The Samoan wrestling family is one of the most connected and respected in the industry. If they decide Brock needs to be held accountable, they have the influence to make his life very difficult. Final question. When Jacob Fatu eventually returns, if he returns, should his first match back be against Brock Lesnar for revenge? Or would that be too dangerous given what Brock's proven he's willing to do? The reverberations from this what happened on SmackDown wasn't wrestling. Jacob's recovery will be committed on live television and packaged as entertainment. The Bloodline storyline is in chaos. Brock Lesnar shattered WWE's reputation, potentially ending his career, is damaged, and showed zero remorse for destroying a young man as someone willing to cross any line to prove a point. Share this video with everyone who needs to understand the severity of what happened. Share it with people who think wrestling injuries are all fake and worked. Share it with anyone who still believes there are boundaries that wrestlers won't cross. Subscribe to SUPLEX Ring Saga because we'll be covering every development. Jacob's surgery results, WWE's official response, potential legal action, locker room reactions, and whether Brock Lesnar faces any consequences for what he did. This is the darkest moment in modern wrestling, a reminder that when the line between performance and reality disappears, people get hurt in ways that can't be fixed with storylines. The massacre on SmackDown.